For myself, I come from an engineering family. So my dad was an electrical engineer as well. But I was fortunate that he never really pushed me to go into engineering. In fact, he actually pushed me in all the other directions to make sure that I chose the path that I really wanted. Was always, I enjoyed tinkering with things. I would take things apart and I put them back together, or any other high schools. It was called Advanced Topics, and that class, there was not really a set course of curriculum. There was 3 engineers in that class from the industry, which was our professors' friends. They came in and we broke in groups. Our class size was about 15, 3 groups of 5, and they put on the wall 3 or 4 different projects that we could select. And we selected that project, and basically we had the school year to complete it. And the project that we had, it was one word on a note card that was on the wall, and it said trebuchet. And as high school kids, we didn't know what trebuchet was, but we were the last team to pick. So it was only one of 2 or 3 cards remaining. And so then we were tasked with building a catapult, and we had to build a catapult, and the end goal was to launch a watermelon 30 yards on the football field. So that's all we did. Me and our teammates, we were able to finally complete it at the end of the year. And we were able to launch that watermelon. In fact, we got together with the AP chemistry class, and we were able to launch a computer, like they had an old big box computer, and we launched it, and they built up a paper mache wall and had some chemical reaction. So when it went over, it made a big explosion, and we were on the news and all that kind of stuff. So,
oh, you're kidding.
So I was also fortunate, just before I was graduating, to get a internship with a mechanical engineering firm at the time, actually. So that mechanical engineering firm, although I was electrical, exposed me to architecture and engine design. I was at a hospital, actually, and since I was in school, I was able to actually work the evenings, and they had a project at a hospital to trace medical gas piping. So what I was doing was I was going out with the architect, because they were going to do a major renovation, and they needed to know where those pipes were going. And I was the lowest man on the totem pole. So I went and I was climbing up through ceiling spaces and tracing med gas pipe. And I was with the architect, and the architect had drawings, and I was getting kind of a crash course on how to read drawings, what the requirements were, why he needed to do what he was doing. I'm sure I was annoying, but I was asking a lot of questions about what they needed to do and how they were doing, how they drew it. I was fortunate and I was blessed to get a job opportunity in an electrical engineering firm as well. And I started to do that. And a couple of my first few projects were actually school projects. So I was doing modernizations for elementary schools, high schools, in the educational realm. Just coming out of school, it was kind of neat because kind of going back in a professional setting now. And I was able to now design, and I was given a lot of leeway from my mentor at the time to be able to design these types of spaces under his tutelage. So I had a chance to design some, K through 12 schools, classrooms, the systems within it, whether it was lighting, power distribution, coordinating with utility companies, got involved in the cost estimating of it as well, was involved in the construction administration. And what that did is it really opened my eyes up to this whole A&E industry. And it allowed me to understand that I was able to flex my muscles, not only in design, which is very confined and solitary, but there was a lot of collaboration as well. Actually, I was at a different firm. So the firm I started with was J.L. Henksler. So I was working, actually then moved over and I worked for TMAD engineers. I was there. Yeah. And then we started PBS in 2003. So I was about 4 years out of school by then. So after gaining all of that experience and being able to kind of see that this industry has the ability for you to have your hands, every day is different essentially. You have your hands in many different avenues and aspects. And I was able to use a lot of schooling and teaching, not only in engineering, but in other aspects as well. And it was really intriguing for me. So that excited me, and that kind of pushed me along in the journey. After, as I mentioned, about 4 years of working, my father, who was also in the industry, he retired and he was at home, but I think he also felt that he had some additional energy, some gas left in the tank. I was working. I had some ability to drum up some clients and build some relationships, which was the most important. I felt that I had energy, and I said, you know, why don't we get together, and do something together where he wanted to coach and help me out and give me his kind of lessons learned through the industry, and I had the energy and fire to be able to push that forward. That's what we did in 2003. We kind of together, we started PBS along with some amazing partners at the time as well. And we kind of came together and said, hey, let's serve our clients with this same passion that we all have and be able to kind of drum up and build PBS the best we can. Offices, we started in San Dimas, Glendora. So right now our main office is in Glendora, where we have about 60 people here in Glendora. We also have an office in Los Angeles, just down the street from the airport, which handles a lot of our aviation work. We do a tremendous amount of aviation work. So we have about 10 people in Los Angeles. We have an office in San Diego as well. We handle a lot of the school districts and the airport down there. We have about 6 people down there. And then we have an office. We just recently acquired a firm in Houston, Texas, and they mainly healthcare. And so we have an office in Houston, and there's 5 people in Houston. There wasn't a lot of spare time. So I think the first part of it was managing my time was probably the most difficult thing. Getting through it was also obviously the financial aspect of it. I was fortunate after I had started at UCI, there was a process to apply for scholarship, which I was able to obtain. So hope that was very helpful for me as well. That's the one thing, is that, you know, a lot of people, there's this common misconception that engineers are reserved, or engineers they like to be in their own little hole or in cubicle. And I think a lot of that is attributed to there's a lot of technical work that's being done, a lot of calculations, a lot of things that requires focus. But just like anything else, I think there needs to be a balance. And what ends up happening is I find that many engineers, they really excel at the focused efforts, focused work. But I think to be successful in this industry and to really get the most of it is you have to be a collaborative person. You have to be able to not only do that focus work, but you have to be able to work in a team as well. And perspective is another big piece. When you're doing your work, putting the other person whom you're going to be doing that work for, whether it's an end user, whether it's an architect or their design team member, or someone you're collaborating with, putting yourself in their position to understand what they actually need is so important. Your success is directly proportional to the amount of uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have. So if you're willing to have uncomfortable conversations and ask the questions that maybe people don't want to answer or that you're scared to ask those questions, because that's going to ultimately lead to your success. I think that we're in a golden age in that regard as it relates to construction and design. You know, construction is, you know, hundreds of maybe thousands of years old, and people have been building since a lot of time. And as we've seen in the last, I'd say 5 years, there's this huge push and transition to digital. And as you're aware, you know, 3D modeling with Revit has become the biggest thing. And I think, you know, we look at our business, and in the last 5 years, we probably went from, you know, at one point we were probably 20% 3D design, 80% just standard 2D, to now the converse, where we're 80% to 90% 3D design to 20% just standard 2D. And as we're designing, we're starting to get this 3-dimensional component to it, where now it's looping in augmented reality to it and enhancement of 3D work as well. So 3D scans. So a lot of things that we're starting to use now as well as 3D cameras as well, to be able to document the space in 3 dimensions, and then using that to our design as well. I think overall, what's exciting to me is now utilizing software and technology to not only witness and see the designs before it's built, but also being able to utilize those to streamline the whole process as well.